Mr. B, how are you, sir?
Morning now, all good in the kitchen. How are you?
Not too bad. Feel like we are taking a step up today. Looks like a bit more cooking, a bit more technical.
It's a bit more cooking, but it's more of an assembly job, because when we get onto cooking nice salads, which are particularly brilliant on diets for things like fibre, they tend to be just all about assembling layers of flavour. They're healthy to eat, but if they're boring, people don't eat them. Yeah. So what you're looking is for little flavour enhancing tips, and we're going to talk about this little beauty later. Fish sauce. Now, we're going to talk a bit about that as we go along, but mainly the idea with posh salads and good salads, and this one is taken from a man who makes probably the best salads in the world, a guy called Yoto Ottolenghi. He's an Israeli man who makes some of the best vegetarian food in the world. People think he's a vegetarian, but he isn't. He adds small amounts of meat to large amounts of vegetables and things that are grown naturally to make delicious tasting food that feels plant-based, but quite a lot of his recipes have got some meat in them. He's an absolute genius of a salad maker, and he's all about A, how things look, and B, how they taste on the mouth as you eat them. So there's things that have got bits of crunch in there. There's things that have got bits of spice and sweet and sour in there. There's basically things that trick your mouth into having far more flavour than just eating the raw vegetables on their own would do. You still get all the health benefits of the raw veg, and they just taste delicious.
All right, sounds good.
So we're going to start off by cutting up a steak. Now, it's the recipe we're doing today, and the ingredients make a salad for 4 to 6. Alan and myself are going to make a 4 to 6 style salad, but we're only going to cook the meat for 2 people so that we can save some of the salad for later.
Sounds like a plan.
We're going to chop up our steak out into 1 centimetre strips. Now, I don't know what steak you've bought out. I bought, it's a sirloin steak I've bought.
A rump steak, I believe.
And how much fat has it got in yours?
Much fat. Get a fair bit. It's going to cut that straight off.
Okay, cool. The idea with fat is it provides flavour to beef in particular. And we all know how good it is in things like bacon. The idea is not to go absolutely mad and make sure that every single piece is cut off. But obviously, if there's a big piece of fat, A, that's not that nice to eat, and B, we don't really want that if we're eating as healthily as we can. A 1 centimetre strip looks like that on mine, and all I've done is cut them relatively thin. The idea is that we're going to cook this steak at the end of this meal for 3 minutes. So if you put a huge steak in, it will be raw, and if you put a tiny steak in, it will be crispy. We're trying to get in exactly the middle of that, where it's still soft and delicious.
This is the first time I've ever cut steak up. Normally I just take the fat off, straight in the pan.
Yeah, do you? Yeah, absolutely. And steak is a great thing to eat if you're healthy eating. Obviously, it's a red meat, so we want to try and split that up with other proteins throughout the week. Certainly some fish and some chicken. And if we don't eat meat, then we need to make sure we can get our proteins from somewhere else. And today we've actually got some nuts in this recipe, and there are various other ways that vegetarians can get their proteins.
I'm going to be talking about protein actually this week.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
You see the carb one I did?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. As someone who eats too many carbs themselves, my biggest problem is that I actually drink my carbs in the form of wine. Not the best way to consume a carbohydrate for anyone out there.
Have you already cut yours up, have you?
Yeah, I cut mine up earlier.
That's the secret preparation.
Well, no, because we want people to see how long it takes roughly to make the food. But when I cut mine up, I'll hold that up there. I put it into a little red bag, and that's because we're going to put a marinade on this. It's the only reason I've done that. As anyone who knows me, and if we do a few of these videos, and the fajita video last week shows that I'll always put marinades and rubs into bags and that's because you need less of them and you can squeeze them round and it'll still go over all the food. If you do your marinating in a bowl or a piece of Tupperware, you'll need more of the marinade and more of the rub.
I told you, didn't I? I had another go. So I did them during the weekend as well.
Nice one.
Methods. So use the bag. And also use the technique of taking the biggest bit of chicken out and cutting it up.
Oh, so it was still super soft and super tender.
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't as good as when I did it with you, to be fair. But practice.
Practice.
Okay. Coming along.
Right. The main thing we're going to be doing for this, there's 3 phases we're going to be doing for this recipe, Al. The first phase is we're going to make a quick marinade and put it on the beef. Now, when you're marinating meat, there's the crucial things are the balance of flavours that you put on there, but also the length of time you marinate it for. If you had a big piece of beef and you were going to use the marinade we're using today, you'd probably need to marinate it for 4 hours. But because we've got strips of beef, half an hour will just be perfect. And if it's less than that, because we prepare all the other ingredients first, then it will be fine as is. The reason for doing it is to add flavour, but also to slightly change the texture and tenderise the meat.
Sounds like a plan.
Second phase, we're going to make a salad dressing, which we're going to use at the end to dress the salad. Then we're going to prepare the salad, cook off the meat and some onions, and then we're going to build the salad and put the dressing on, and it's going to taste delicious, is the plan.
Cool, we're in.
We're in. So first things first, you're going to use a bullet for this, but we're going to make a marinade. I'm going to use this tiny little food processor I have. It's years old, and I absolutely love it because it's just small. And we're going to start with 2 sticks of lemongrass. Now, when you use lemongrass, you've got the fresh there, Al, haven't you? Not the dried.
I've got the, come out the bag.
Yes, absolutely. If you cut the ends off both your pieces of lemongrass, but the ends should be a little bit dirty, so you can cut the ends off and get rid of those on both ends. Yeah, that's good. And then cut the other ends off. What I find that makes lemongrass nicer is if you now can peel the outer layer of that lemongrass off. It's a bit like when you're working with any of the sort of rough onion vegetables. You know, like if you've got a leek, you can peel a layer off and the next layer will be younger and slightly softer. So if you get rid of a couple of outer layers on each one, we'll actually end up with a nicer product.
I said yes there, like I've done that before. But I'm sure we will come to leeks, won't we?
Exactly. Leeks are a great thing. So anything from the onion family is pretty essential in cooking. That's why we're using garlic today, onions today, some baby shallots if we're using them.
You smell lovely.
Now, bearing in mind, you're supposed to bash lemongrass to get the flavour to come out, but we're whizzing this up in a food processor.
Okay.
Just put it straight in your bullet. Cut them in half if you want. Now, I've cut mine into thirds, but it doesn't matter. I know how good your bullet is. It's going to absolutely blink.
Okay.
3 garlic cloves go in next. Again, you just have to peel them because they're all going to get whizzed up.
Sorry, what was that one? That was the
garlic cloves.
Cut them up as well.
Now, while you're peeling those out, we're going to come on to the surprise ingredient of the day, which I know you smelt for the first time yesterday, is fish sauce. This is what it looks like if you buy it from a Chinese supermarket, but you can buy just regular plate Blue Dragon or any of these brands of fish sauce. Fish sauce is exactly what it says on the tin. It is a sauce made from rotting seafood. So as seafood goes off, they take off the liquid and it makes fish sauce. It is really strong smelling.
Yes.
Now, this comes down to one of the main principles of Asian cooking and increasingly cooking over in England, which is that when we were all younger, we were taught at school that there were 4 tastes. They were salt, sweet, sour, and bitter. It was discovered about 100 years ago, but only accepted from about the late 2000s, so 2008-9, by the Western world. It was only accepted that there's actually a 5th taste, and that taste is called umami, and it was invented in Japan, discovered in Japan, and it led to the creation of a fairly nasty product, or a product with a very bad reputation, called MSG. Umami is roughly the Japanese word for yummy deliciousness. So it's a taste that you can't really describe. But what it is that taste that you get at the end of eating something that's delicious and slightly older. So a mushroom is a good example of umami. If you've ever had a steak and then you've eaten a steak that's been aged for 28 days, you'll know that it tastes nicer. And the reason for this, all of this, is the umami flavour. And umami is a real way of making protein taste nicer. And so in this case, we're going to use a little bit of this fish sauce throughout this recipe, and it's going to make everything taste nicer, despite what it smells like. So next we're going to put a teaspoon of our fish sauce in, and it's a teaspoon only, yeah?
I'm not sure about this.
Teaspoon of soy sauce. You've just got to trust the cook, Al.
Soy sauce.
Yeah. Again, a little bit of umami and soy sauce. And it's classic. It's an absolute classic in Asian cooking. Half a teaspoon of sesame oil. Sesame oil is a lovely, rich oil. It tastes absolutely delicious if you just taste it on its own. It's obviously an oil, and it's quite strong flavoured. The Japanese use it a lot because it has a very high boiling point, which means that you can use it to cook things without them burning. 1 tablespoon of your sunflower oil. Anyone who thinks that a tablespoon of oil is a lot, remember that this is a recipe for 4 to 6 people, and this is only on the marinade, so it really won't be that much oil going into each person. Tablespoon of caster sugar. All in there, Al?
Yeah, and the sunflower oil and the sugar.
Anyone who just saw me disappear off there, I was just checking my video camera was actually still recording, as I keep getting that wrong.
Okay, all in the bullet.
All in the bullet. So now we whiz it up, which isn't very good for the video because obviously it's a loud noise, but it won't be a very long one.
Any water in there or anything?
Sorry?
No water, just as it is.
No, as it is, fine. We're looking for a sort of paste at the end of this, Al, so it'll be fine whatever you do. How's that going now? Looking good?
Need a bit more, I think.
Yeah, give it a bit more to make sure that lemongrass gets broken up, Al.
It's also getting stuck to the sides.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have a bit of that now, Al?
How does yours look?
Like a sort of baby food paste.
Need a bit more then.
This is the start of our first layer of flavour, basically. We're going to be putting this on the beef, and it's going to have a chance to work into the beef, but when we cook it, a lot of the pieces will fall off, and it will just be for all flavour into the pan. Good to go? We're there. So it just goes into the same bag as the beef. If you've got a little bag, beef bag.
Smell better now.
And again, just like the fajitas, we're going to give that a little massage round, yeah?
Yep.
And this will all have the effect of breaking down the protein slightly. So the protein strands are long, and they're longer in some forms of protein than others. And it's those protein strands that if you see a child eating a piece of dry chicken, they can chew it around for ages in their mouth, but they never quite break it down. That's why a lot of young kids don't like meat. Anything that you can do to tenderize meat, cutting it into smaller pieces, bashing it with a hammer, old school style, cooking a slow cooked, if you have a pulled pork and you cook it for 12 hours, everyone knows how soft that is, and soft and easy to eat. All of this is going to do is add flavour. It's going to tenderize the meat and make it softer, and it'll just be more and more delicious. You won't get this massive amount of fish sauce flavour. You won't get a massive amount of lemongrass flavour. You'll just get a little bit more Asian spice on there.
Okay, it's done.
Done. So we just leave that on the side, and we'll make the salad dressing. For the salad dressing, we are going to dissolve sugar into water. You can't dissolve sugar. You can only dissolve a certain amount of sugar into a certain amount of water. There's just maximums. But by heating the water, you can increase the maximum, which is what we're going to do here. So we're going to take a really small saucepan. Mine's actually really small. It's specifically designed for sauces. And we're going to put 3 tablespoons of water in there. I've completely forgotten to bring any water, but luckily I'm drinking some on my bench. So I'm just going to use that straight out of my cup. We're going to prep the other bits and pieces for this dressing first. So We're going to have 80 grams of sugar weighed out. 80 grams of sugar. Have you weighed that out, Al?
Got that ready yet?
Yep. We're going to have a tablespoon of fish sauce, so that's prepared already. Don't need to get that. We'll just have it nearby. We're going to have a tablespoon and a half of cider vinegar nearby. We're going to have a tablespoon of lime juice. Now, my lime's in a whole lime. Is yours?
Yes, sir.
So I'm going to pop that open. I always use a tiny little bowl and I just squeeze the 2 limes into it. The 2 halves of the lime, not the 2 limes. If we only need a tablespoon of lime juice, then 1 lime is going to give you easily that, if not more.
Do both sides, yeah?
I just do both sides because I haven't got another if I was doing it and I wanted to use lime later on for something else, then I'd save it in case I didn't need it. But in this case, it'll be fine. Don't buy pre-bought lime juice, anyone out there. Just get a lime. Pre-bought lime juices sometimes have sugar added in them, and they sometimes have other things to make them long life. If you want lime juice, just cut up a lime. Make sure there's no pips in there, because there is actually one in mine. We won't put a pip into the salad. So we've got that ready. The last thing to get ready are the 2 cloves of garlic and a chilli. So for the chilli first, it's 1 red chilli. And we're not going to make this so hot that an English person can't eat it, because obviously this is a food from Asia and the Asians eat the food very hot. So we're going to cut this chilli in half lengthways and we're going to take the seeds out. Mine hasn't got many seeds in, and that's because it's an English chilli and it's not very hot to start with. When you're taking the seeds out of a chilli, you're also trying to, Alan, remove the white stuff. Can you see the white stuff on there?
Like the stem of it?
Sorry?
The stem. Or
the white bits in the middle that come down here. You see those white bits that are lighter than red on yours? Hold yours up again, Al. Yeah, you see that little middle piece?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
So just pick it off a little bit. All of the heat of a chilli is in the seeds and that white piece. Right, when I'm finally chopping a chilli, I slice it lengthways as fine as I can to create long, thin strips. This is known in France as a julienne strip, and it's just a long, thin strip. And what I'm looking for is as thin as strips as I can do with my own knife skills. And then I'm going to push them all together and cut them across to make the tiniest little cubes I can.
What's the idea of making them so small?
Yeah, the idea behind making it so small is because we're making a salad dressing here. And when we spread it over the salad, we want it all little bits to be everywhere. We want tiny little bits of flavour to be everywhere. Because a salad shouldn't be every mouthful the same. It should be a little random hits of flavour. So if we make small little cubes of chilli, then they'll be sprinkled over, and sometimes you'll get some and sometimes you won't. It won't be too hot because we took the seeds and the white pieces out. And if I hold that up, you'll see my fine dice looks like that. How's that looking now?
Yep. Small and diced.
I mean, I watched your knife skills the other day when we did our last video. I thought they were pretty good, Al, to be honest.
Right, we're in.
And then we've got two. Now, you've left the chili on the chopping board. Yep. Later on, we're going to put that into the salad dressing. Okay. Do not touch your eyes if you've cut up chilies and you haven't washed your hands, because you will get sore eyes because it's just super sensitive. We will wash our hands, but before we do, we'll just prepare the garlic because we're here. Really, you just want to crush this garlic and put it into as small a pieces as possible. I use this microplaner out for all my garlic work, and it's just easier than chopping it because it's quite fiddly to chop.
Taking the outer layer off as well.
Taking the outer layer of papery skin. The way I cut that, the way I peel that off easier is I cut the little hard knobby bit of the garlic off. That's at one end. Anyone who's ever done a lot of garlic knows that if you can use a little trick like that microplaner I've just done, you'll see that I've already done it because it's very fast, that microplane. It's probably the most used piece of kitchen equipment in this house, the microplane. And it's across the fibre.
And then just slice it up.
Yeah, small as possible, small as you can. Excellent stuff there, Al. Excellent chopping. That's looking good there. Going to go with the chili, so if you push it into the chili, it doesn't matter. They're all going to go in the same dressing at the same time. That's one. So we're going to now get our little pan with 3 tablespoons of water in there, and we're going to heat it up while we stir in the sugar. What we are not going to do is make a caramel out. So we're just going to heat the water up while we're stirring it until the sugar's dissolved.
To make a point with you earlier, Mike, that it felt a lot of sugar initially when it was listed.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to end up being, if this salad serves 5, it's going to end up being about 16 grams of sugar per person on the dressing. And that's going to be about 65 calories worth of sugar.
Yeah, I think it just looks a lot when you
yeah.
You're working on that protein, but of course when it gets divided into everybody else, it's
yes, absolutely right. And there's a lot of that in cooking because you can't really make a salad dressing in tiny portions. You could just make this and then keep it in the fridge once you've made it and use it on another day. I'm going to just heat it up and stir it. I can see you're doing the same, and I'm watching for when all of the sugar's dissolved. This is going to end up being quite a sharp, sweet and sour sort of dressing, this. And that's very Asian to have a sweet and sour style flavour.
Do you make all of your own sauces?
I make nearly every sauce I can. There's an occasional thing, I mean, I'll hold one up that I don't make. So here's a sriracha sauce that I use in quite a lot of food, barbecue food and things like that. A sriracha sauce is a delicious hot sauce, I think from Korea originally, and it's just so complicated to make that I just buy the healthiest one I can. But on the whole, when I'm cooking, I try and tend to learn how to make the sauce. Certainly salad dressings you can make your own, because even if you're having just an English salad, with your meal. If you really don't want to make a salad dressing, then having some balsamic vinegar and olive oil on the top of it, a tiny amount of each, will make it delicious. And that's a salad dressing done. The easiest salad dressing of all is balsamic vinegar and olive oil.
Okay, so this is bubbling.
Have you stirred it all in? Is all the sugar gone?
Yeah, just bubbling.
Yeah? Bring it back over to here then. That'll be fine. Keep stirring it if you want. You just don't want any grainy bits of sugar in there, Al. And then we're going to just put, now that it's off the heat, we're going to put everything else in there. We're going to put the chili, the garlic in there. We'll give that a little stir up. Then we're going to put a tablespoon of the fish sauce in. A tablespoon and a half of the cider vinegar.
That's 1.5 of that one, is it?
Yeah. A tablespoon of the lime juice.
What was that one? I missed that one. Lime juice.
Lime.
Okay.
Just give that a stir up and save it till later. And that's it really for the, we're gonna cook some onions in a minute, but really we're just gonna prepare a salad now. Let's do the onions first because that involves a little bit of cooking. The way we're going to prepare our 2 onions this time now is we're going to cut them in half. We're going to cut them in half. They've still got the skins on. We cut them in half with the skins on. It's similar this to the fajitas, so we're going to cut them in half with the skins on and then cut the little top bit off.
Yep.
And then we can peel them and then slice them while the root of the onion holds them all on, holds the whole onion together.
Got a bit carried away and I've already cut it off.
Some thin slices. So I'll hold mine up there and you'll see that I'm talking about a slice that's about 1 millimetre thick. But it should all hold together because you've kept the root on the onion.
So into strips for both onions. Yeah?
It's quite a strong, overpowering flavour, but the more you cook it, the more sweet it becomes.
This one. Okay.
Cool. So we're going to cook that up quickly. We're using the sunflower oil, just a couple of tablespoons of oil is all you'll need for all of them. You don't need to measure it if you don't want to, but I just have because it's good practice to know how much oil you're using. I'm using a wok. We're going to use the same wok pan for doing the beef after we've done the onions, because that's just another layer of flavour.
Onions straight in?
Yep, straight in high heat. You want to be stirring these round as they cook. They should all break apart and you should get long strips of onion. After a couple of minutes, Al, you'll start to see some bits of it char. Some bits of the onions will start browning and charring. Almost looks like they're burning. Is some of it starting to go brown out?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. Just a bit.
And this burning and charring on the edges, which you wouldn't want it to be very strong, it's actually another layer of umami coming in. Right, mine's done now, I reckon. Is yours done?
Yeah, I think so.
Let's have a look. I'll hold mine up, Al. I don't know whether you can see it, but I've got bits of charred onion in there, but it's not all charred.
You see mine?
Right, that's perfect. So we're just going to bung that on a piece of, we're just going to lay that out on a piece of kitchen towel, Al.
Sorry, Max, say that again.
We're just going to put that on a piece of kitchen towel, so just like a regular piece of kitchen towel. And that'll just let some of the oil run off. Right, that's it. Perfect. That's the onions ready.
So what's the kitchen towel for? Just to soak?
Just to let some of the oil come off. It will let the onions cool down because they're not going to be hot in the salad. And if you actually taste one of these onions now, they don't taste as raw. We're going to sprinkle a little bit of salt over the top of them. Now, I know a lot of people who know me cooking will be thinking I haven't added much salt to this recipe so far. There isn't going to be as much salt in this recipe because the fish sauce has got salt in it.
Right.
So that's that really. So now we just got to. I've got a little salad bowl, so I'm going to put the salad ingredients in there as I make it, just so you can give it a little bit of a toss around at the end. But the first thing we need for the salad is going to be, you're going to use rice, Al, aren't you?
Yes. Get the rice on the go.
Yeah. You're going to cook. You've got quick cooked rice for 3 minutes, Rob, haven't you?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Use rice noodles. Entirely up to anyone what they prefer. My rice noodles look like that. I'm going to hold that up for everyone to see. They're just like those thin rice noodles you sometimes get in a Chinese, sometimes called vermicelli. How long does that take, Al?
Just 2 to 3 minutes. I must
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you need 100 grams, Al, roughly. All good, Al?
Yeah, it's cooking.
Yeah, while that's going, we can just chop up the carrots and the iceberg lettuce. We've got another chilli to cut up. We've got some bean sprouts and some herbs. Oh, a little bit of cucumber as well we've got. I'm going to do the cucumber first. And you're just wanting long, thin strips. But it doesn't really matter because it's a salad and it's up to you how you have a salad. That's my handy little, my hob's actually quite posh and it's got like a little way I can put on my rice or my noodles for 2 minutes and then it just stops.
These cucumbers long strips?
Yeah, absolutely. I cut my whole piece of 70 centimetres of cucumber into that many short strips. I mean, it was just a little bunch in the bowl. But bearing in mind, you're eating it, you know what you like in a salad, so don't drive yourself too mad. Right. Don't forget your rice, Al, while this is going on. Well, I'll just quickly check that I don't need to restart my video because sometimes that stops for some reason. Right, is that rice just straining somewhere, Al?
Carrots in long strips as well.
Well, the carrot?
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's called julienning, which is a posh culinary term, but it's just battens. It's just battens, which are strips. You're trying not to get a huge bite of carrot, and you're trying to get a nice bit all the way through your salad, but it doesn't matter, and don't drive yourself mad. Same for the lettuce.
So with the lettuce, same long strips?
Yeah, just chop it up out, however you fancy it, mate.
It's definitely the most work I've put into a meal.
Sorry?
This is definitely the most work I've put into a meal. It's going to be tasty.
Nice one, Al. Don't go too mad with that. You'll be fine with it. Just put it in the bowl.
Coriander.
Coriander, just rough chop. Same as the basil. You can do it at the same time if you want. Right. Everything in there, Al?
Everything but the chili.
Right, so the chili we're going to use last. We're not going to put it in that bowl, but we are going to prepare it so that we can just throw everything together as a salad. So this chili, we're going to do into as thin as we can rings. So if you cut the tip off the chili, I'll show you, but if you cut the tip off the chili and then you start a thin slice round, you should get what look like those chili rings you see when you're in restaurants. And I'll just hold that up, and you get like little rings like that. And the reason for this is because it tastes nice, but it also looks good. And part of eating is to get things to look good, because then people will want to try it. Now, I wouldn't put a whole chili on this because you're already doing a salad for two of you right now. And this is going to be the last topping that goes on the top.
Leave the seeds. Get rid of them.
If you want to leave the seeds, leave the seeds. I've left the seeds in by now. Just depending on how hot you want it. And also with these chili rings, of course, they're going to be on the top of the salad, so someone doesn't have to eat one if it's too hot. So we've now got all of the pieces of our salad. We've got the salad in a bowl.
Yeah.
We've got the nuts prepared. I've got the crispy shallots, which I know you haven't got. We've got the onions that we've cooked. We've got the rice and the noodles that we've cooked. And we've got the salad dressing that we've made. So all we're going to do is we're going to prepare the salad, cook the beef, and then finish the salad prep. And the way we do that is like a layered salad. So we're going to are you doing it for two, Al? I'll do it for two. So, we put half of the vegetables. Now, this is if we were doing it for all four, so you can put as many of the vegetables as you want on there, Al, but it should really just be a quarter of the vegetables. So you create a little base layer. Have you put your bean sprouts in, Al?
No.
Okay, that's fine. Just put your bean sprouts in and give it a toss around. Oh, I forgot to remind you of that. I just put mine in automatically. 100 grams, Al. I suspect that's a 300-gram bag, so just do a third.
Needs to be chopped up as well.
No. You can just put them in like they are. In there, it's fine. So I've put a little bit on my plate that looks like that. It's like a bottom layer, this. So make sure you save enough salad to do another layer on the top, yeah? Perfect. Put on a little handful of the onions on each plate, onto the top of each salad, the cooked onions that are sitting on the kitchen paper. These will be so tasty, these onions. By cooking them that little bit and then putting some salt on them, they'll be so tasty. So I've put my onions on mine, I'll hold mine up. I've got basically a base layer of salad, some onions, and then we're going to put a third of the nuts on now. Just roughly a third of the nuts that we prepared by breaking them up a bit. So you now have two plates that have got base layers of salads on, yeah, Ralph?
Okay.
The last thing to do then is to cook some beef. So we're going to put 2 tablespoons of the sunflower oil in the same pan, not cleaned, as the onions were cooked in. I'm using the wok. Right, we're going to get the oil hot this time, Al. So we get the oil hot before we put the beef in. When we put the beef in, we're going to stir it constantly while we cook it for 3 minutes. And that's it. Okay? So once that beef's hot, it should be getting, once the oil's hot, it should be getting hot now. We're going to empty that beef from the bag straight into that oil. Don't burn yourselves out if it splashes back, yeah?
Okay, meat's going in.
The beef goes in. It's going to make a little spattering on the oil. And we're going to stir it for 3 minutes. And I'm actually going to set a timer for both of us. And we're going to stir it as we cook it out.
Where should the temperature be? Hot.
How's it looking now?
Yeah, good. How high should it be?
Say that again?
How high should I have the
What does it go?
how do you guys?
One and a half minutes to go out. Right, last few seconds now to stir it round. Right, that's enough, Al. Does it look cooked?
Yes, a little bit red. So it's looking like this.
Let me see yours. Have you whip one out onto a chopping board, Al? Whip one piece out onto a chopping board. Split it in half. Cut it in half. Look at it.
Yep.
Happy with that?
A little bit red. So
Fix it. Just eat it.
yeah, nice.
If yours needs a bit more, then do it a bit more. Otherwise, it's fine as it is. Mine's fine, so I don't know how yours is, Al.
Yeah, tastes good.
Good. Then we just spoon all that onto the 2 plates, dividing it by 2 onto each plate. Yeah. I don't want you stealing all the meat from Chrissy. Yeah. So make sure it's even, Al.
All of the meat between the 2 plates.
Yeah, absolutely. On the top of those onions.
Should all of the onions be on?
No, no, no. Once the beef's on there, out. They look good, yours. I'll hold mine up. Mine looks like that. Anyone who's still watching. Yep. Now put another little handful of the onions on over the top of the beef.
Sorry, what was that? Onions?
Yeah, another little handful of the onions. And remember those onions that we cooked out were for 4 to 6 people. So whatever's left here, you can keep in your fridge and use them again. But if you want to put some on there now, just put some on there at the top, on top of that beef. It's perfect. Yep, nice one. Then we put another little handful of the salad on, the raw vegetables and herbs. Bearing in mind again that that was for 4 to 6 people, so you can put as much on as little of as however hungry you are now, because we've got extras left over. Right. So once you've got those two on, then we're going to put some dressing on there, Al. Now, this is the dressing we made earlier, and again, it serves for 4 to 6, and it's got the sugar in it. So you really are aiming to use half of this dressing on your 2 plates. Now, I don't know how much is in there. I could check how much is in there. I'll put mine into a measuring jug, Al. My dressing. And it's roughly 150 mil, so I'm going to put 75, I'm going to put 35 over each thing. Yeah. Just go, it's not a science, just put on a nice amount. And a little dusting of the peanuts. Remembering again that the peanuts, you're only using half of them. Or in your case, almonds, doesn't matter. Put some red chilies on there. Sliced. And a little bit of fried onion. In my case, shallots, but you haven't got those, I know. We buy these already fried. It's one of the only things we buy because it's such a hassle to make them. And there we have it, Al.
Boom.
If I hold that up, you can see mine.
Yeah, so mine looks pretty similar today.
I'd say yours looks exactly the same, Al. It's looking good. It's looking good.
A couple of chilies on top. Could I use a few onions instead of the shallots?
Yeah, why not? Because you've got them there. They taste delicious, the onions.
Yeah. Job done. It's a good job you can't see my floor.
Superb. So I'll let you and Chrissy eat it and we can get some feedback on what it tastes like on the website.
All right, sounds good. Superb. Enjoyed that.
Nice one.
In there. Thanks, mate.
See you later.
Bye.
Cheers all.